my perspective on therapists is that they often aren't prescriptive. And if a client was to say to the therapist, what do you think I should do? The therapist would respond, well, what do you think you should do?
That's like so classic old Freudian. You're like old school, Todd.
I don't know if therapists are more prescriptive, but that's just my...
That's like from the 70s. So the traditional psychoanalytic therapists still do that, but no, I got one of my Dharma friends who's also a therapist in the East Coast. He was doing this thing called internal family systems, IFS.
Amazing.
Parts were.
Yeah.
And I got turned on to that. And oh my God, that's just like, that's the bomb. And
well,
it's with Dharma, it's like so perfect Dharma. I mean, they use the word self, which is a bad word in Buddhism, but it's just fantastic for helping on the cushion. And with therapy clients, like when they can start to name parts, then they're not judging themselves. Oh my God, it's so great. It's just liberating as heck to people's inner worlds to be able to name a part, not blend with it, see the bigger self. And IFS brought spirituality to the therapy world, kind of stealth. Like it talks about the key thing of the IFS. I don't know if you know, but it's resting in self 24/7. The parts, yeah, you work with parts and stuff, but the key is that you're vibing and embodying this self, this wise centered self energy as the norm. And eventually you're just living there.
And it's called internal family systems. Is that correct? Is that the type of therapy?
Yeah. IFS.
I saw on Netflix, Gwyneth Paltrow has a show called Goop. I don't know why that name, GOOP. And they do an episode with internal family system therapy.
Cool.
And so like, I'm not super familiar with it, but it seemed pretty extraordinary. And like people playing parts, in family systems who aren't in the family system, but then able to embody and somehow get in touch with energy they know nothing about and to convey to the participants, that completely represented that aspect of my mother or my dad in a way that was like, again, kind of speaking to these forces, which are the collective unconscious, whatever you want to call it, beyond our understanding, that, at some deep level, we all maybe have access to, or we do all have access to, depending upon where you want to sit with that. But do you see that with IFS? Is that kind of, that might be how it's done on a retreat, like group therapy, when there's a lot of people, it's probably different if it's just an individual working one-on-one with a therapist, but.
Right. And that might be, I'm not sure because I didn't see that episode, but there is also a way of representing pieces in your family of origin in a systematic way of looking at parts. That was, I think, Bowen or Satir, somebody did this whole structural family systems thing. And with the IFS is really looking at internal parts. So like right now, I have a part that, just because I'm being interviewed, that is a bit of a performer. And I can see that part that's wanting to do a good job, wanting to perform, but that's being witnessed by this self energy that's just kind of back here. That's none of that. So I can just bring mindfulness to the performer part. Nice. It's so complicated. I wouldn't know where to go with all this, but we're all made up of different parts, and that often happen because of some energetic clench. Like say you were, first time in school when you were 5, someone criticized you, so you got a part that became sensitive to criticism. And then you develop other parts that protect that part. And there's like this whole kind of system, how our psyches work and get formed. But what's really cool about it, and one of my 16-year-old clients, she asked me, well, what's the value of this? And I had to really think about it. I love when teenagers ask that. And it was just like, well, when you can identify, like if I was angry at you, say, I could say, well, I have a part that's angry at you, and there would be no shame. I said the value of IFS is that there's no shame and judgment. It really almost erases all judgment, because I can speak for a part rather than from a part. And that's the key of the work. You're speaking for parts rather than from. So I can say, Todd, I have a part that's really upset with you. And of course, the me that's naming that isn't upset, right? That's classic Vipassana, the witness itself. And then we can just talk, and you can say, well, I have a part that's really mad at you too, right? And then we can just look at the whole thing from self energy, and we're speaking for our parts that are triggered or clenched. And then the whole thing just, there's so much space that opens up in there, which is really the point of practice too. And it's so liberating, even when I can say, yeah, I have this part that's talking a lot, she's performing, and I love her, she's okay. It's not who I am. I mean, we utilize parts almost like characters in a movie, and sometimes you can bring forth that part. You can ask parts to step back, like if I wanted to maybe be more quiet, I could just ask that part to step back. If I was mad at you, I could talk to, well, why are you mad at Todd? What does that part need? It's just so liberating.